deletions to the minutes of February 11th from the regular meeting.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Jane?
Dog control. One adoption and 80 miles traveled through the town. Justice report, $12,612. February fines.
Thanks, Jane. Highway report, Jeff?
Yeah, the contract I see is listed later in the agenda. It's go time, believe it or not. Spring's right around the corner, hopefully. Did go out to Albany last Wednesday. Chatted with Assemblywoman Lipton, Assemblyman Gary Finch, Jim Seward. They're hoping to hold flat, but it's very tense out there with that $3 billion hole they have to fill in. So we'll see what happens. Senate and Assembly is both signed on to restore the extreme winter recovery money that we got in years past. I don't know, about $15,000 or $16,000 to us. So we'll see. Won't know till April 1st when you put pen to paper. Amnesty days. Move it back a week or ahead a week this year, May 3rd and 4th, Friday, Saturday. So we'll get the posters out here shortly. The county's doing a credit to our landfill account this year, so we don't have to have it up there the specific week. They're hoping different municipalities will use different weeks, so it doesn't. Problem was that municipalities go up there and all the commercial guys have to sit in line, and they're losing money sitting there waiting in line, which makes sense. So hopefully this will work out better. We'll see. We talked last meeting about the rec mower. There's some pricing there on different things, direct replacement, diesel 0 turns, gas 0 turns. Delivery be mid-April for those units. And if you decide to do something with that, it'd be good to declare the old mower and also our small roller surplus, so we could get them advertised with the Elmira auction, which is second weekend in May. That's any place you'll take anything, that's the place to take it.
Okay.
So, and the other thing I want to throw out there, with everything going on, it'd be nice if we could maybe come up with a couple of volunteers or something for highway committee. So maybe we could meet, opposite board meetings and go over some things, so we could, line of communication open.
I'd volunteer.
You want to volunteer? Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer?
What's that for, Jeff?
What's that?
What are you looking volunteers for?
Highway committee, just the 2 board members, basically. Freeze a meeting, so, but just to, like I say, if somebody to meet with down the shop, go over things and try to,
I'll do it.
maybe they can take it back to the other
I'm
board
home
members.
during the day, so.
All right.
Okay, so we have Dave and Jim
Okay.
that want to volunteer for that.
Okay.
Jeff, do you have any kind of recommendation on what kind of mower is best for us? The diesel 0 turn at 19,000 or the gas?
Well, the
zero turn at
direct
11,000?
replacement's exactly what he's got now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. With the canopy, it's what he's got. I don't know, I think it's 16 or 17 years old. So that's what that is. Any of the others that I'm aware of and that I've talked to, there's no canopies like that, so you're in the sun. So
Is that a diesel? The direct replacement?
yes.
Yeah.
They don't. Good question. They don't make that in the gas anymore.
And
Current
they
one
don't.
is gas, and I might add it's a gas hog. Like it's gas. So
That one's 16 years old.
I'm guessing. I didn't look anything up on it, Dave, but I want to say it was like 2 or 3. I think we got that.
The warranty better on the diesel?
biggest thing is resale. The more you have right now, you're not gonna get much for it because of being a gas and its age. It's pretty much worn out.
I mean, the new one.
But right,
The,
going forward,
Going
if you
forward.
roll it over and you want to go to get rid of it, it'll be worth a
Mhm.
considerable amount more because of the diesel engine.
This should last longer. The diesel engine,
Use half the fuel,
the
hopefully.
right, the rebuild time.
And you said these two have canopies on them?
Just the direct replacement is the only one with a
Mhm.
that has a canopy available.
Right, okay.
It comes with just a roll bar, it's a
Mhm.
swing up roll bar, but the canopy price is included. I think 2 weights on the back that they recommend for that size mower on the front. It's
Mhm.
all turnkey ready to go.
Mhm.
Especially damn hell, you want something counterbalance.
I would think who's ever mowing, whether it's Hank or anyone else, you know, for as much as they spend on that machine, would want a canopy in the hot sun.
Well, it's all open down there.
Yeah.
Once
Are
you
they
get
all
out
the
in
same?
the middle of that,
No low branches.
Are they all the same size mower decks?
Yes. 72-inch, 6 foot. Same thing he's got now. The only question, and the price is same, is they do make a rear discharge now. You're not blowing it out the side, you just drive over and it drops it. I don't know if it, you know, the way he mows, if that would be better or not. You know, talk about that when it came to, if you decided to order it, wanted to get a, you know, rear discharge or side discharge.
So it sounds like we can have delivery within a month.
And that's why I wanted to check on that before I go get rid of the old one.
Right,
I don't want
Right.
grass growing and,
right.
you know, it comes in July.
So I talked to Jeff on the phone and he did say the Palmyra auction in early May was the best way to discharge the old mower. So that means in order for that to work out, we'd probably have to make a decision tonight on doing this. Does anybody have any more comments or preferences on what they would like to see?
I think probably diesel's the way to go, isn't it? I mean,
Where's the money coming from for this? Do
Well,
we have an equipment reserve?
Jeff, do you know a little bit more about where the money's coming from for
I
this?
sent a thing to Gina last week and I have yet to hear anything back where, and, you know, which accounts we could use for that.
So she hasn't responded to you yet. But sitting down with her last fall, I did talk about the mower.
Mhm.
She said there was money in there for a mower.
Mhm.
So which line item it's coming out of, I can't really tell you.
Oh,
right
but I
now.
mean, we have the.
Yes.
We have the money.
Yes, we have the money for it. Yep,
So it's current budget funds, not
Right.
from a reserve account.
right. But we're going to check with Gina specifically on that. Yeah,
Pending that, but yeah.
right. So could we make a resolution tonight conditional upon Gina's approval of this?
The, you're not, 2 things. You certainly, if you determine that the equipment that Jeff is talking about, the old stuff, is surplus, then you could pass a resolution to determine it's surplus and to put it in the auction.
Mhm.
And then the other is, you know, we're under the competitive bid. This isn't,
That's
is it a state
that's
bid?
state bid.
Perfect. Okay, so we're not worried about that.
Okay,
And you could, yeah, you could vote to purchase, if it's with current funds. If for some reason it's, we got to pull something from equipment reserve,
right,
you could.
right.
It would just be pending that 30-day publication in the
Mhm.
paper is all. You could do that.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I assume,
We'll try to talk to
Yeah.
Gina tomorrow about this and get something definite on.
Well, so it sounds
line
like we could approve it, and then it just depends on whether, if it comes out of current funds, then the approval could go through. And if it isn't, then we have to publish a 30-day notice that we're going to take it out.
right, so I would couch your motion, and if the funds need to come out of the equipment reserve, that you approve that subject to permissive referendum.
Okay,
So either or, I think you could approve.
okay. Well, let's see, we have some choices here. Now, the direct replacement, can we get that in diesel?
That is
It
diesel.
That is diesel, okay.
That's a rear steer canopy, 72-inch. They call it a iron, 7-iron or Iron Man deck. It's the
Mhm.
same deck that they use on
Is
the
it
heavy
John Deere's?
commercial deck.
Big John Deere's, I think.
I'm sorry.
Who's this, a John Deere, is it?
Yes. Yeah. Yanmar 3-cylinder diesel,
Okay.
26 horse, I think.
Mhm.
So, mhm.
I would think we want to go with a direct
Yep.
replacement, wouldn't you?
The last one was 16 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it has a canopy.
And that one was gas.
Gas,
Yeah.
right, so that's.
That's gas, yeah. It has a canopy, it's diesel. I think we want to go with
And
that.
just to clarify, that whole model tractor with the rear steer
Mhm.
is not available in gas anymore. They've all
Mhm.
gone
Right,
to the
right.
diesel, just for
Mhm.
clarification.
Mhm. Okay, so we need a resolution to, for Jeff to go ahead and purchase the direct replacement John Deere diesel for $20,553.60. Subject to the financing that we talked about, and he will be checking with Gina. Somebody can say so move or add to it.
Yeah, I'll move that, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay. And then we
We
need,
just have to have the language put together properly, right?
I
To-
think
So-
Because
contingent to
contingent
the-
on
So
budget.
if the approval includes withdrawing the funds from the equipment reserve, if no funds in current budget, subject to permissive referendum.
Right.
okay. So we need another motion to put the existing mower and small roller into surplus so that it can be sold at the Palmyra auction.
We still have to vote on
What?
that, they just first and second.
Oh, we did first and second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thanks, Dave. Okay, so we need another motion so that we can declare the old mower and the small roller surplus, so we can sell it to Palmyra auction in May.
I'll make a motion to declare the old mower surplus and to sell it at auction.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay,
And he said the
The
old mower and
old
the small roller.
The small one.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, Jeff, you're good to go on that. Just talk to Gina and get back to me. Let me know what Gina says.
Maybe a vote talk to Gina.
Yeah, we'll both talk to Gina. Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, well, if we have to do the permissive referendum, then we have to get that. in the
Yeah,
paper right away.
Yeah, we have to get that going. Yep. Okay, Jeff, anything else?
No, I'll let Jim and Dave, I'll chat with you, keep you in the loop and let you know what's going on. And I've
Yeah,
been trying to
so-
use, now that I got the new town highway superintendent email and everything's all dialed in pretty good with Tom Gath. I've been trying to get you guys more information, more timely manner. Dave, you're finding it on your counter inside your door, a hard copy, so.
So you'll copy me and the communication. Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
I try to do something like even once every week or two. Try to do- So the meetings aren't such a,
Yeah.
learning curve, just try to keep a little bit at a time.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Recreation, Renee?
Thank you.
So on the top sheet, you can see just some updates that I have sent Jim last month in terms of who our members are. We met back in January to discuss some things. Projects to continue, some new items, discussion at our meeting where the 3-year grant that the Clinton County Youth Bureau has offered, waiting to hear back from that. Everything's been turned in. Park cleanup is set up for May 3rd. There's gonna be a sign for calling emergency 911 put up down there. We'll be contacting leaches once the trash needs to be moved. The snowmobile club did put the sign up. Thank you to them. As far as I know, town garage sales will be on June 1st, and we're looking at getting the bleachers repaired. the solar light for the flag, so there's always a light on the flag. The youth program is scheduled for July 9th to August 15th. And then we went over some town park forms that used to be in motion when people were reserving the park over the last couple of years due to some issues with that. They were handed to me. I went over them, per Don's secretary. They came back at me, and then Don and I had a conversation in terms of the editing. You have both forms on the second page of what the committee sat down and did, and then what was edited with Don and Armstrong and secretary and I. And these are what we're looking at in terms of when people are reserving the pavilion and what would need to be done for the expectations of reserving the pavilion. The biggest difference is this time around, I think that you'll know, is number 10. The fee being required is gonna be $50 for residents of Preble. You notice, and 75 for non-residents and organizations. In the parentheses, you can see there's 40 and 50 there. That's what's gonna be returned to the people who wanna use the pavilion, as long as it's found in the conditions that it was reserved in or in better conditions. If questions are regarding where the additional money is gonna go, that's gonna go into the reserve account. If there's an organization that's gonna be using it and the person signing it, both parties will be held accountable for the use of the park and then responsible for anything that's done there. On the second side of it, you can just see it's the same application that used to be, just asking how many participants, who's gonna be using it, and then signing it. Some people have already made reservations, sent that in, but it just says that I'll contact them once the reservations are confirmed. For most people that I've contacted, I've let them know that it's documented they've had it, but nothing's concrete yet, or we need to have to go over this and that there would be some changes this year. And this way everybody's being held accountable to what the expectations are and what needs to be done. Everything will be mailed directly to me so that I can hold check of what's being turned in and what's not. The checks will be automatically deposited into the bank. So we have an even flow for that, and then the town would write a check back for the amount of the deposit that would be returned to them, so that there's a proper way in which it should be done instead of holding them.
So who's gonna handle the money in this?
What'll happen is these forms will get sent. So Betty Ann, can I use you for an example?
Go ahead.
So Betty Ann makes a reservation. I'll acknowledge her reservation. I'll email these forms to her. She'll fill out these forms, turn her deposit in for if it's an organization or if it's her herself. She'll send those to me, then I'll bring the check down to Jane. Jane will deposit that with the monies that'll go into Gina.
Mhm.
And then once Betty Ann's done with her family reunion or picnic, I'll go down, or my designee if I don't happen to be in town, because I'll be the one checking and opening the gates. If the park is found in perfect condition or better condition when she reserved it, I'll contact the next board meeting. There'll be a list of people who need a check back. The checks will be made out, they'll be mailed back to Betty Ann or whoever happens to
Okay.
reserve it.
So these people have to realize that they're gonna have to wait until after the next board meeting
Right,
till they get their money back.
right, and that's what I'll let them know, excuse me, that's what I'll let them know, and that's what, under number 11, it states that it'll be refunded back to, or
Could be a
deposit
month
be
and a
sent
half
back
or
to them.
whatever.
Oh, yeah, like Dave said,
Realistically.
it could be a month and a half afterwards.
Realistically, if they paid you before they needed to, and
But this way, if there's
Yep.
anything that hasn't been done, then we know that the funds are gonna be there to repair any damages or anything that needs to be done.
And the other difference is we're gonna be charging a little bit for the use of the park.
Right,
Right.
and then, when the committee talked about this, some of the members on there had said this isn't something new. It'll be new for us, but it's not new for communities surrounding us, because a lot of the communities around us do similar things like this. Actually, they charge a little bit more to use their pavilions in their parks.
Mhm.
And they use that money to support their programs, to continue maintenance, to add on to the parks and different things like that. So that's what those funds would go towards.
Okay. So do you need a motion from the board to use this form?
That would be great if we could get a motion from the front.
Okay.
And then I can discuss the last sheet with everyone. So there was some confusion in terms of people reserving the park.
Mhm.
I highlighted, two examples in yellow. So some people have been making reservations for the park and they weren't hearing back, or they would hear, we acknowledge what you've gotten, we'll get back to you, but they weren't hearing back in terms of the reservations for the park. And the reason that was, is because they were going to the contact us section of the town website and trying to make the reservations that way versus going into the park under the community and using the actual park reservation. So I wasn't receiving those park reservations. So if you look at the sheet of paper in front of you, you'll see the second name down. Over on the far right, it says your phone number. When it comes in as your phone number, that's the reservation that I received for the park.
I made it right on the park reservation. That's where I went to the park and I made it under the park reservation and I got that notice.
So then if you go down further to the third one up from the bottom, you can see where that reservation says message. That was made in a different location on the town website, not the park reservation. And Tom and I spent a couple hours, hour and a half the other night on the phone, going back and forth and testing it and trying to figure out where the glitch was that the reservations weren't coming to me. And that's kind of where we figured out where it was. So we did a couple test runs and we figured out that's what it is. So now underneath the contact us part, if people are looking for a specific person, whether it's Jeff or Jane or whoever, now it's got a link that'll take you right to where you need to be. So hopefully that's completed any of the glitches of when people are trying to make reservations or contact the certain people that they're trying to get, that'll go directly where it needs to. So hopefully any park reservations that are coming in now will come directly to me and then I can acknowledge them like I have been doing by telephone and letting them know that I have received it. I'll put it on the calendar, but nothing's definitive yet until this was approved and then moved on.
Yeah.
I was just wondering with your funds that you're gonna create by charging a small fee, is that going to your regular funds or the playground funds or for the pavilion or what funds is that going into?
The reserve fund that's used for like maintenance and upkeep in the
Okay.
playground, so it's that reserve fund that's gonna go in
Reserve
there
fund.
that we're gonna keep building on, that can be
Okay.
used for a multitude of things. Cause my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that reserve fund is for like maintenance, the playground and different things like that. Am I incorrect or correct?
What do we pay taxes for
Cause I believe when the reserve fund was made, that was for like the playground repairs and different things we wanted to add to or build on to for the
Right.
park, right?
Right, exactly.
So this is a way to help facilitate and keep that going. Or if for some reason somebody uses the park and something gets broken, then those funds are automatically there to be able to do that.
Fix it.
Don, do you have an opinion on allocating these funds that are coming in by charging a fee to use the park?
I guess I'm thinking there's reserve funds and then there's reserve funds.
Mhm.
If it's a true capital reserve fund, then whatever we put in there, we've got to do it subject to permissive referendum. So versus calling it a reserve or whatever, but it's really current budget funds,
Mhm.
that are to be used for the park. So I don't think the intent is really to create a true reserve
Mhm.
fund, but in some way, a line item on your budget statement saying this is what we're holding, and over time that balance is going to build and then going to be able to be used for whatever.
So
It'd
there
be a
should be
whole
an
separate
account.
line item though, so because you're writing checks out of that same account when you're refunding money.
Last year, how many times was the park rented out last summer, do you know? offhand?
Every weekend except for 2 days. So, and that started in, I believe, May. So you're looking at for May,
Shouldn't be writing personal checks back to people out of a reserve account.
Right. I mean, I assume the money would go into our checking.
Mhm.
And so somehow we just need to keep track of that. So
Should be a line item, right?
in some
Budget,
way,
on the budget.
and I don't know, Renee, do you anticipate keeping?
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
calendar already that I put everybody's names on, so then I can just write it and I'll know, like, I can give it at the end of the year and say, this is what we've had and this is what we've done. I mean, I'm more than glad to do that on top of.
Yeah, and I guess when
Some
you're
people
talking,
donate the whole thing back
Yeah,
in
and some
too,
people have
so I mean, at
donated
that
the whole
point.
thing.
and when you're talking to Gina
Mhm.
about the reserve thing, let's
Mhm.
talk to her about this.
Right.
My view is it's part of our general fund funds. Okay, so it's not a reserve, a true reserve account. So you can put money in, you can take it out.
Okay,
Through the recreation fund, but
Yeah.
not our
That
general
would
fund.
be right.
okay.
But I think it's not going to be a separate account per
No.
se. It's probably just going to go into your checking, I would think.
Mhm. Yeah.
But somehow we need to track what goes in and what's
Right.
refunded back
Okay,
out.
I'll talk to Gina about that. Does anybody have any discussion on this application that Renee wants to use?
Well, Don and his secretary have gone through it and
Mhm.
okayed it. I don't
That
know.
doesn't mean it can't be improved. Dave, okay, don't.
Well,
It was an attempt to tighten some things up and
Right.
make clear
Right.
responsibility.
well,
May I say something?
mhm.
I just see a lot of paperwork and a lot of tracking for $10.
For a small amount of money.
I mean, knowing, is that person gonna have to fill out a voucher
Someone's gonna have to fill out a voucher to run it
to
through
voucher this
here.
and go through paperwork? Are we gonna have a separate sheet? for
Renee, you're
vouchers?
probably gonna have, someone's gonna have
That's
to fill
all I
out a
keep
voucher.
seeing is paperwork that I spend all
Right.
day doing.
It's gonna cost you more in the long run, writing these checks and everything.
You know, if we have four, well, if we rent the park out, say 8 times in a month, we're talking what, like $80
Or more.
possibly, or a little bit more if they're out of town. But we're not talking about a lot of money here. And Jeff brings up a good point. Is this just creating more work than it's worth? Anybody have a comment or discussion on this?
These are very, I can just point out, these are very similar to the forms that when I started the youth
Mhm,
program that I had to fill out every time I wanted to use the park for the youth program.
mhm.
I think it's not the forms, it's the check processing that we're talking about.
I don't mind filling out the vouchers because
Yeah.
I think the accountability is there. Because we've had the
Mhm.
park get opened when people haven't paid their
Mhm.
deposit
Mhm.
and then things haven't been cleaned up and I've had to clean it up afterwards.
Right, right. I know we've had those situations.
You know, I think it's a keep of this money. It's a bunch of baloney. The number of people locally, that park was put in for the local community, not outsiders. They rented it for people in town. And they, right now, a lot of them don't have computers, so they can't get on the internet to reserve the park. And if you're gonna charge them in their taxes, then charge them again here, I think that's a bunch of malarkey. And I've heard that from several people. They don't mind giving a deposit. If there's something wrong, keep it fine. In fact, some organizations that go down there that never, they give back the check to the individual, then they sent a check to the town for $35. I know one for a fact.
So you're leaning more towards the way we used
Put
to
it
do it.
down, give a check and give it back to them. Why sit, go through all this paperwork? And if not, fine.
If you put a check in the bank, that's over 30 days, is it kind of like an escrow? Do you have to pay interest on it? You know, I don't.
Okay, let's bring this back to the board here. We could, if you want to wait to address this, or address it now, we can make a decision on whether we're going to charge or not charge. We've sort of heard the pros and cons of both. I don't think there's a problem with the form itself. I don't think anyone has a problem with the form itself. I think it's down to, do we charge and create a little bit more work? Or do we
Yeah,
not?
so
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the $10 is just not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's $1,000 in revenue for the year, maybe, right? And, it's-
Write the check, hold the check, and then
Yeah.
either give it back
Mhm.
or cash it.
Right.
and that way you've got the money if you need it. And I think we ought to figure out a way to fund, and we have found ways to fund the park and the youth program, right? If we need to increase the funding.
What do we do?
Let's do that.
What do we rely on volunteers then to clean up if there's a mess, right?
Sometimes there is a mess.
And sometimes the individuals who use the park don't pay their deposit.
Well, that,
Well, they shouldn't get it then.
yeah, that's.
They
a different
shouldn't
issue.
get it if they don't pay the deposit.
Then the problem comes to where when I say you
Enforcement,
don't get the
right.
park, other people are opening up the park.
You tell him, because Hank opened it up and he didn't know they hadn't paid.
Yes.
There's
you
no
did know.
communication between Hank to open it up, and you're gone.
Let me know what the board decides.
All right.
More than
And I
happy
can
to
see a
oblige
problem
everybody.
with the internet. I mean, most of all of us are on the internet, but not all the people in Preble are on the internet. And then if they can't get on there to reserve it, then that's a problem with people where they haven't been doing that in the past.
They
and
usually call me.
they
to be
might
honest
lose
with
it.
you. They've called
They
me.
might
Yeah.
lose it.
It used to be every
Yeah.
single day.
They call you
I don't think
Yeah, they've
that's
called me.
much of an issue. There's phones,
as
people.
the
Call
money.
camera,
Yeah.
call, they know somebody on the board. How do I do it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
should be taken
Yeah.
care of.
So actually, it's the money problem that.
Yeah.
I think it's
Like
the money. Is it worth?
yeah. It's not-
Is it worth it for the small amount?
Go
that
back
we're gonna-
holding the check. in
Yeah.
my opinion.
And
yeah.
People say they pay taxes. It's our park, and should we be charging? I mean, $10 is. Why bother?
Yeah.
Almost.
It'd
I
be
got
a
one
month and
more
a half
question.
before they get
How
it
come we're
back.
letting it go out of town to people out of town when there's only 2 Saturdays and Sundays they want it? Local people want it Saturdays or Sundays. Why do we run it out town? Because if you go anyplace else, New York Park, they charge $100.
Mhm.
If you want the pavilion, it's $500.
Well, okay, so I don't have a problem with charging non-residents for the park.
All right.
I think maybe we should do that.
And I think you should go up with your price.
Have the residents. The residents can have the park for free. Charge the non-residents.
There's the non-resident, let them make up the difference.
Right. Let them make up the difference.
And what about the organizations?
Which organizations?
The Tully Seniors or the County Auxiliary or the Catholic Daughters? Because those,
Majority of those members are local. There are a lot of local members right in it. In fact, I turned around and I just made one for the Cortland County Auxiliary, and all our auxiliary members are members there.
none of them went to the picnic last year.
So there is a gray area here. Are they members or are they residents or are they not residents? There are cases where somebody calls in and wants to reserve the park. One person out of a group of 20 or 30 is a resident of the town, and they're the one that calls in, and all these other people,
No, they're not a resident. Yeah.
come in too. So, there are going to be gray areas, and there are going to be some disagreements, and there are going to be some arguments, no matter what we say here.
You could say the same thing about a family.
Oh yeah. So I would like to see residents get it for free and non-residents pay for the park. If they're coming from somewhere else because they can't access a pavilion where they live, they can come here and they can pay for it.
Because they do other places.
Yeah, they
too.
do other places. Yeah, and they're not paying taxes here.
But what about organizations?
I don't know about organizations. Does if you start creating all kinds of rules, like 50% or more of the organization has to be in the town, probably that gets to be too picky.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
we're
either got
gonna
to be
do
in
that
or in or out.
for a family reunion, to your point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. You want to think about this just for a little bit, and we can get back to it.
I think we ought to table it and think about it.
Okay.
So,
The challenge is that now's the time when people are starting to reserve.
Right. So Renee needs to do
That's
something.
right, yeah.
Policies
Renee needs to
in
do
March.
something
Waiting
now.
another month is gonna be a
Renee
challenge.
needs to have policy in place of what to do now. She would like to do this, but,
It's the committee that would like to do that. I just want to clarify, it's the committee.
okay, the
that's done
committee,
this.
right, the rec committee has created this. Thanks, Renee, for that correction. What
There's
if
nobody
we,
Well,
running
well, I
it.
think, you know, the 10
We have
bucks,
people using
the 10 bucks to a degree is an acknowledgement of the great work that the volunteers and the amount of effort that the volunteers are putting into it.
Mhm,
So, and you know, their goal is to continue to improve the park, and so that's a noble goal,
Right.
and we should applaud them. I think that the $10 is probably not worth the effort to collect it.
mhm.
So let's figure out some ways, I mean, to fund your programs and fund your efforts using other money, but supporting you. Okay, so I don't think that you should take the fact that we don't want to collect that money as a rejection of your group. You know, it's simply saying it's an interesting idea. It probably doesn't work. Let's find a different way. Okay. So I would say that, you know, I don't want the Renee and company to walk away thinking that we don't think their
Mhm.
efforts are worth charging for.
Right.
They are.
Right.
But on the other hand, let's figure something else out. I would suggest that we just collect deposits from whomever and just return the checks.
How about out-of-town organizations?
Same thing. Just don't try and
Organization.
collect any money this year and figure it out. And either don't rent to people outside of the town or do.
Mhm.
You know, make that just we either don't rent to anybody that can't produce a resident,
Mhm.
or we rent to anybody that comes in, first come, first serve, one of the two. So I'm fine if we say you have to produce a resident.
Mhm.
If your club doesn't have a permanent resident, sorry,
Right.
Yep.
Right.
you know, but if you got one, okay.
Don, looks like you want to say something.
Well, are payments made by check, Renee?
Yes.
So what if it was a $50 for either as a deposit?
Right.
And you say for the non-resident, if you can determine they're non-resident, you charge them $25. They write two checks. One goes in, it just is in, and the $50 checks are just held. Or some, you know, if you want that differentiation.
I'd say let's just not rent to non-residents.
I think you should
You
charge
can do
more.
that, but
Because you go Low York, they're reserved a year ahead, and they charge $100
Mhm.
and no refund. If you
Mhm.
don't want it, you don't use it.
Mhm. Mhm.
How many
Well,
times was
they
it
pay for
rented
use.
last year from a non-resident?
It's a gray area
Yeah.
Because of the organization
because of
issue?
organizations, and then you mentioned family reunion. So if you've got a family reunion coming up, then somebody who's out of town that's responsible for it, that's making that reservation, is technically out of town, but it's for a family in town.
Yes, they
That's your
produced a
gray area.
resident. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you know
think-
what I'm saying? But probably 5 times last year, we probably had somebody who technically probably was out of towner. And that's including the organizations.
And you're the one that has to determine whether it's resident or non-resident, which can be difficult.
And when it comes to family reunions, I mean,
So
if they're
do
saying
you
it's a
wanna
family
charge-
reunion for people
do
in
you want a
Preble, and I know it's
deposit?
for people in Preble,
either
Just
way.
a deposit,
I'm
right.
fine with that. But it's the organizations that don't pay their deposits, or the people who aren't paying their deposits, or,
Mhm.
you know, when there's damages and stuff done, I'm into the battle of.
Mhm.
And and that's what, you know, the committee's trying to avoid is, you know, we're trying to get clear understanding that these are the expectations, this is what we, you know, a common language, a common understanding of.
So what would it take, and not that we could do this tonight, but what would it take for us? I mean, it sounds like that's the problem that we have to solve. So what would it take for us to pass some sort of an ordinance that had a fine if you did damage to it and you hadn't paid your deposit, right? So I mean, you know, you basically skipped out. You know, you did damage and you skipped out. Could we go back after the people for more money?
You'd have to pass a local law, I guess, making that a violation. That's
Yeah.
damaging.
Right.
Then you're gonna end up
Yeah, boy. that sounds like-
issuing a, I mean, you could do that, but it's
Okay.
gonna end up in justice court.
Okay.
What'll happen?
I think very rarely are you gonna have any problems that are gonna cost more than the check that's being held for the deposit.
No, I'm saying it's the case where they don't get the check.
They don't get the check, they don't get to play. I mean,
Yeah, so I
she's
feel like-
gotta have it when she,
Yeah.
give me the check, I'll give you the key,
Yeah,
whatever,
sure.
I'll open it
Right.
up.
Right.
That's cut and dry.
Yeah, except. she's
I'm
saying
gonna
because that's
inspect
a
it when
problem.
you're done and you'll get the check back or you won't.
Right. No check, no key. That's gotta be our policy.
No clean, no money, no check.
Can I be double that, throw something out here? So if I'm holding the check for the individual and say something occurs and we haven't deposited, and then they say, well, I'm gonna cancel the check, so the check is no longer valid, but there's been some kind of damage or something that's been done, then where do we go from there? Is the town gonna then take on some kind of action, or are we just gonna call it?
You keep a blacklist and nobody.
Yeah, so you don't run it again. I mean, just done deal. We
I'm
can't,
just asking for
Yeah.
clarification, because for the last 2 years, we've had different issues, and that's where the committee's finally said we need to go back to this. And that's what the town has said, let's go back to something where there's documentation on everyone's behalf.
Yeah, I would think that if somebody reneges, they're never gonna get to that
Yeah,
pavilion again.
yeah.
You
And
have
I
to go
think-
elsewhere.
Okay.
So,
Get the check, give them the key,
And I think
give them the
that
deposit back if it's clean to your satisfaction. If not,
yeah,
keep the check.
So number 10 will say. a
And
deposit
at that point, turn the check in.
it
I
probably
don't
should be
think you need to
$100
deposit the
instead
check
of
any ahead of time.
75.
Mabel always just hung on to them. She had a clipboard, but when you sign it,
Are there
when
many
she gave you
times
the
where
key,
there's stuff to be
the
cleaned
check
up?
went on the clipboard.
So number 10 is gonna say now a deposit of $50 required at the time of this application that we're gonna put there, and that's
They
for
do,
everyone now,
so it's not really a
in and
problem.
out.
I was thinking of the volunteers cleaning up. with the
I would like to see
incentive that
non-residents pay more,
deposit
but,
was used
you know,
for the
or are you
park.
gonna just deny the park to a non-resident? You know,
I think that's wrong.
if the park is gonna sit there empty for a weekend, and somebody could use it and pay for it, wouldn't we wanna rent that out?
Well,
That's
they're not
my
paying for
feeling.
it.
Sure.
Right, but if we're charging non-residents,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
People
non-residents.
using a baseball field all the time that aren't residents, so.
yeah, you have baseball leagues going on. You know, I mean, this can all get very sticky. You know, I think as a small town, we want to keep things as simple as
Friendly.
I was
possible.
gonna say, you gotta decide
Friendly.
whether you're in business or not.
Yeah,
If you're in business or-
we're not really in business renting
I
out.
know, that's the
Right.
problem. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Trying to be half-in.
So Jim,
But
do you
the-
want me to retype this and then give it to Don, just to make sure that the wording is correct, and then where we go?
No, I think we're pretty much okay with all of this. Don, go ahead.
I was just, I think the deposit was being used as a method to confirm a reservation.
Right,
So it serves that purpose too.
right.
Because you're not locked in for a reservation, right, until you receive the check.
The check and the paperwork. no.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that's the part what the check was used, the deposit check was used for too.
So maybe we just stick to the way we were doing it. We receive a check and an application, and then they get the check back.
And if you don't want to charge non-resident, you
Yeah.
just do the deposit.
Yeah, just a deposit, because it's gonna get too sticky with all of this
So deposit of $50
Mhm.
along with the required.
for everybody.
paperwork.
Yep. Okay. Renee, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I
Okay.
think I've covered.
All right, thanks.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
Thank you.
Don, do we need to make a motion, or anything like this?
You could, just to clarify.
I mean,
Nothing has changed since last year.
No, it's just, if you're approving this form, I think you need maybe a motion, Jim, to approve the use of this form with a revision of paragraph 10,
Okay,
that in all cases, it's a $50 deposit only.
okay. All right, so who wants to make that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Got that, Jim?
Okay, before we go too much further, with lengthy discussion. We do have a visitor tonight, Rachel Hyde from Homer Phillips Free Library, and we'd like you to give us a little presentation on what you have for us.
Thank you. And Margaret Little's with me as well. She's the president of board of trustees. And we just came as information outreach. We have a school board referendum coming up in May. And our service area for the Phillips Free Library is the school district. Right now, our funding has been coming through the village, the town, and the school ballot. The village, or the town has cut us for this year. And we are an association library. We get the majority of our funding right now. Most of it comes through the school ballot. So all of the residents in the school area vote on that. So what we're proposing is to put all of our monies on that. It's a more secure funding. It's what the state recommends that we do. And so we come to you. We've never asked Preble for money directly for the library. You know, it just comes through the school ballot. And so all of our funding will be through that now. So here's just some information about the library and the fund. If I could keep going.
There you go.
You know, we serve over 30,000 visitors on a very meager budget, really, considering how much our library does. We have an incredible amount of programs and outreach. We do a lot through the school programs there. And so this funding, it will increase the school taxes. Right now, it's about $10 per 100,000. That will go up to about $24 per $100,000 of assessment. It's a more equal funding because it is on the ballot. People can vote on it, and so it's very transparent. And what else am I missing, Margaret?
Well, it's a way for everyone who thinks libraries are important to your students, your community. There's an awful lot of programs and outreach to intergenerational groups and a variety of different projects that Priscilla and her staff work on. So everybody who feels that's important gets a chance to vote on it. And for the first time ever, if you've not paid it in the past, it's $24.89 per $100,000 of assessed value, approximately $2.08 a month that it's going to cost you throughout the year. One of the big things that we were surprised to learn as we were looking at our numbers, which New York State is always real happy to ask for, is that a year ago, 4,000 people had used our free Wi-Fi either in the library or just sitting on the green where they could pick up a signal. This current year, over 16,000 people have been able to, or 16,000 uses of our Wi-Fi free has happened. So you're talking about not being able to get on the internet from here, just run down to Homer and sit in the library. You don't need a parking lot. You don't have to go inside if you don't want to. But libraries around the country are trying to work on squashing that digital divide and provide internet access, and we keep pushing that. So that's one of the things that Homer is providing. And we are trying to find ways to reach out to the little towns, Preble, Scott, Truxton, and Cortlandville, because they're all part of the district, to bring all the cool things that we have out here if it's possible, but also to invite you to come in and see the way our little Phillips Free Library has changed over the years. There's no more storeroom anymore. There used to be, the whole basement was essentially storage, or at least a significant portion of it, and it's all been turned into usable space. We have a maker space, which was highlighted in the Portland Standard about a month ago, maybe. We have a beautiful toddler room, which anybody is welcome to come and use. We don't care, resident or non-resident. That room is open, and we see a lot of parents, especially kind of frazzled moms and dads with a toddler, especially in the summertime when it's hot. Just come in and cool off and hang out in the toddler room. But there's the maker space, the big computer storage room now. That's going to be turned into a computer lab, which is one of the reasons that we're asking for a little more money. And we're gonna have a homework help center that's being set up with cooperation of the school district. And targeting, I believe it's the middle school age. I can't remember if it's third or fourth or fifth grade, but math skills in particular is the focus of this program coming up. So I've been a librarian my entire professional life. I retired in 2016. I've been volunteering at my grandson's school library, and I just took a job part-time at a Maxwell library up in Camillus. I think libraries are a gem, a jewel, and they are underutilized and undervalued a lot, like, for what we are able to do. And we really have a treasure in Priscilla and her staff. So we're hoping that people will take a look at some of the handouts that we have. I don't know what a pizza goes for down here. I happen to live in Baldwinsville now, and I've been allowed to stay on the board for another 3 or 4 months until this project is over. But I know that a pizza at Gina and Joe's cost me $25 for one meal, and $24.89 seems like a real bargain to me. I have access to all that the library has to offer. If you haven't been there recently, stop in, because it's really
And there's
amazing.
teen tech support too. So if you are having trouble accessing internet or your phone or your digital camera, you can show up or make an appointment and someone will help you download books or, find your tax forms, or there's just a wealth of resources there for the whole community. And so we would love to see, all your residents use them more. We brought a couple of posters if you want to hang them up. This is just library funding. Some of the questions people are asking. Hopefully we've covered that, but we have a great staff there. We're always looking at the hours and how we can serve the community. So are there questions or concerns that just wanted to make sure that you understood what was going on and why? And
So I'm just a little confused. So currently you're getting funding from towns as well as from taxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you're saying we're not going to ask the towns for funding anymore.
Right.
We're just going to go directly to the residents.
Yes.
Okay.
And the town of Homer's pulling out of their funding was a big surprise. And then it would mean a big hit to a lot of the programs and the staffing, especially the staff. But we've worked real hard to expand hours and try to provide more in the space that we have. So.
And Preble has not contributed to your funding.
Pardon?
Preble has not contributed to your funding.
no,
Okay.
Not
other
direct.
than
Okay.
through the ballot. And I can get a copy of this presentation too, which has the numbers in it, just so you can see what, like the town of Homer, had given 36,000 in the village, and how much comes through that. So, copy of those ones there.
So we're here to just sort of share what was shared at the public information meeting that was held last week. The weather wasn't exactly conducive apparently to a big turnout. And we are hoping that if we give you some of this information, that you have, if you have questions from the Preble residents, that you can either use this to help, or you can get on the website or call the library and get more answers. So that information is out there before the ballot on the 21st.
Okay.
So this is all hinging on the ballot, whether it can get approved or not approved.
Yes.
Yeah, because if this does not get approved, it'll stay at the current funding from the ballot, which would mean drastic cuts for the library.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for coming. Okay, county legislature, Don?
Well, I brought you up to your county rosters
Oh, good.
for all you guys.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, the cost for January recycling, $45,551 for the month of January. February's bills haven't come in yet. They won't come in until the
That's
end
just
of
for
this month.
January.
That's for January. December was 41,000. So, we did put out an RFP. Casella was the only respondent, and their costs went up considerable. do we still have to make a decision as to whether or not we're gonna renegotiate a contract with them or do a contract with them or take it over ourselves? Hopefully, we'll have that decision made here very shortly. We still haven't been able to find a coordinator. I was hoping to have one on board this month, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. The person that was interested in it, he went back to his old job that paid more money evidently, so we lost him. So we're looking.
Okay.
Looks like the jail roof is pretty much done.
The jail roof is pretty much done. All I gotta do is the inside work. Just gotta put a floor in where the gymnasium was.
State inspections before
Yeah.
everybody can come back.
Not yet. When everything is completed, then
Then the state
they gotta do
inspections.
electrical work. They got several things to do yet, so. Inside,
Another month.
probably, at least, depending on what they run into when they, really get into it. Yeah. Any questions?
No.
Are you guys leaning one way or the other on the recycling? I mean,
Well,
we're pretty good at losing money, but I don't know if we'd lose that much if we took it back over.
I don't seem like we would, no. Like we could do a better job. We've talked about having students down there from the college to oversee what comes in. Some which would help clean up our stream. There will be a bin down there very shortly where we will be separating the glass and use that for other beneficial use at the landfill, probably for cover and whatnot. So we will be separating that out at the recycling center. And as we progress, there might be some other things that will come out. I don't know for sure yet. Trying to get our deficits under control if we can.
Landfill still losing a lot of money.
Not as much as we were. Flow control has helped. Now we're having it monitored. So that may help. Of course, nobody knows what day, who's going to be looking. So, I imagine more of them will start complying if they figure there's going to be big fines involved.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's all going to help.
Okay. Any
We
other
did
questions?
end up on target pretty much for what was we expected in the budget last year when we got everything figured out. We were pretty much on target for the increase that flow control would bring us. So it's looking good there. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other
Thanks,
questions?
Don.
No?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Don.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Jane?
There were no building permits issued in February. 64 miles traveled for the town. 4 building inspections. 17 hours worked. 1 fire inspection. 4 complaint follow-ups. 9 telephone inquiries. Planning board meeting is March 27th at 7 o'clock. ZBA meeting April 4th at 7:30.
Thanks, Jane. Our town historian, he was going to come tonight, but he'll be here next month to give us a report. Okay.
We collected $883.18, dispersed $867.18 to the town of Preble, and $16 to New York State Egg and Markets. Tax collector, February taxes received $102,063.73.
Thanks, Jane. At this time, we want to get into unfinished business. We have a Time Warner 10-year contract renewal that we've been working on. And everybody should have a copy of this contract. Yeah, that's
So-
Don, okay,
go ahead.
yeah, Don, after reading through this, it looks pretty much the same as the contract 10 years ago.
I agree.
I don't see any material changes.
I don't see much either.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, compared it word for word, but I
Right,
agree. It's
right.
pretty much structured the same.
So basically, because I haven't dealt with this before, Betty Ann dealt with it before I did 10 years ago. And the town of Preble does not receive any revenue from this franchise agreement.
That's correct.
We could if we wanted to. If we wanted, they say in here that if we wanted to put a line item tax on the subscriber's bill, we can do that and they would forward it to us, but I don't think that's really the best thing to do. So we're allowing Time Warner to come in to use our infrastructure in this town to provide their service. And that's pretty much what it is.
Right. And it's a contract that once agreed upon gets sent to the Public Service Commission where they approve it, and it's not a binding agreement until the state approves it.
Mhm.
And we did, just so the people in the audience know, we did have Jim and I did have a phone conference with reps of the cable company last week, and that's where this proposed agreement comes from. Of course, we did float the idea of there's areas in the town that are not being serviced by cable. And of course, their answer is, well,
Population density in that neighborhood
it
is
needs
not,
to be cost
yeah.
effective or whatever. But
Mhm.
Jim did describe the areas that are not covered. They said they would look at it
Mhm.
and get back to us.
Right.
So I believe we're waiting to hear from them on that.
They knew we were having a board meeting tonight and we were going to discuss this. And so I think they're waiting for after tonight's board meeting to contact us. So we're not going to sign this until we get some kind of clarity.
Yeah, and there's no hurry anyway, because they indicate that the 2009 contract was not approved by the PSC until like May of 2009. So their view is the 10 years isn't up yet anyway.
Mhm.
This is not just exclusive for them. Other ones can come in.
Oh, it's a non-exclusive.
Non-exclusive.
Yeah,
This is
but
not exclusive.
right.
Right.
Don, what would be the implications if we didn't sign this?
Don't know. I don't know if they could force that. Actually, I put in a call to the Association of Towns today to address, is there anything in the regulations? Is there anything where they do have an obligation to build out into some other areas in the town? I don't have the answer to that. I'm trying to get information. Maybe you guys have some information, Jan or Joe, on that. But I think that's the real key. Do we have any?
Well, there's nothing that requires them to build to a specific location.
Okay.
So they have a requirement in their settlement agreement to build in front of a certain number of locations statewide. And then there's been dispute about whether that included some urban locations, which they are claiming that it does, as opposed to purely rural locations. But even within that context, it's not clear that we can force them to build in the town of Preble to do that. On the other hand, I know that some other municipalities, not saying Preble size, but other municipalities have negotiated some terms on these. So I think it is worth our while to spend a month and look at it now that we kind of have a better feel of where we are.
I don't know that we have any leverage.
Right.
I just
and we may
don't
not, yeah.
know that we do.
Right.
Well, okay, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One, I mean, as we reported last town board meeting, there's been a fair amount of contact specifically about the Rittenhouse Square, Stone Lake corner. And, unless we're not talking to the right people, I'd ask the town to at least get management to confirm that those people that are talking to us are actually talking about something that management knows about and is going to happen.
Sure.
Whether you have leverage or not, some of your
town residents are either being assured that something's coming or getting smoke blown in their ears. I'm not sure.
I don't think we can assure anything.
Well, you can, no, but you can ask them. I
People
mean,
are being
if
assured
if their answer is they don't know anything about this project, then let us know
No,
that.
no, we'll definitely talk to them.
Yeah, in fact, the two representatives that Don and I had on the phone, they were eager to help in any way they could and look into it. So they said that they would look into it, and they knew we were having our board meeting tonight, so they're going to call us after this board meeting and come back with something. So we're not going to sign this tonight. We'll wait and talk about it again next month and see what they come back to us with, and we'll go from there.
Maybe they could tell you which areas are not served. They should know that. They could look on it. And when they intend to serve it. We just tried to scramble the last couple of hours here. Don McMasters is the one who's been talking most directly with them. He has not heard from them since the last meeting. But what they've been telling him is that in the spring, they're going to start constructing down from Lake Road down to I think both lakes.
Yeah, so the project is imminent, and if whoever you're talking to isn't aware of it, I wouldn't know why. And I don't know, I guess my question is this. I mean, if they don't need, only if they don't need a contract from you, do you have no leverage? I mean, are they saying that they will shut off their cable service to the rest of the town? You don't sign a contract?
No, the conversation didn't go there. It was a cordial conversation about the need for a new franchise agreement.
Sure.
And discussion about the areas that there are areas that are complaining and looking for service.
Right.
And we'd like to know what their plans are. And so they were going to look up their maps or whatever sources of information. And as Jim said, they were going to get back to us.
Right.
Well, final point. As Don said, behind this or maybe over this is the PSC's approval. And the PSC actually imposes a formula for extension of cable service. The concept basically being that you put it in at a certain cost per mile originally, and you didn't charge the recipients any extra money. You just had them subscribe. And after that, if you can extend within some measure of your original cost per mile, you should. And if you have to exceed it, then you tell the resident that they have to contribute to it. There's a rule to this system that the PSC imposes. The problem from my point of view is that all of that information that you'd need to apply the formula is in-house to them. So unless they file it with the PSC somewhere, which maybe they do, it's kind of it's a complicated system.
Yeah, and one of the requirements of signing this agreement is we have to have a public hearing too. So they know that we have to invite the public to have input in this. So
I would think some additional leverage is if they don't satisfy the town, the letter could go to the PSC. They're in hot water with the PSC. The PSC ordered them out of the state, fined them $2 million, and they're negotiating behind closed doors. Unfortunately. They need to, and the reason that they ordered them to leave is they have not met their numbers that they committed to in terms of signing, hooking up people that aren't connected. So this is the very problem that they're trying to work their way out of. They should hook everybody in Preble up.
Yeah, they should.
anybody else have any comments on this item right now?
I mean, one other quick, I mean, you say Don McMaster has some assurance.
We're trying to get the contact at.
I'd love to see the name and contact information for that.
Yeah, he said he can get it.
Okay, very good.
He said that to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
In that last, I thought you were copied on that last email.
sorry. Jeff.
Yeah, that was like a week
Yes.
ago. Yeah.
But do I remember?
All right, so we're gonna wait on this, see what our conversation is with Time Warner, and we'll talk about this again next month. Next item, Ed Benedy. Don, can you just give us another update?
Sure, Jim insisted on meeting at the Bentley Trailer Park, and when it was 40 mile-an-hour winds last Monday afternoon.
You, me, and Rick met there, right?
So you saw the danger first team.
Yeah.
I've seen it a few times. But we tried to make clear, because both Mike Scott and Ed Benedy were there, and we tried to make it clear to them that what our expectations were for the final cleanup, if you will, because we have a hearing scheduled for April 3rd at 1:00, and that's on our application to hold them in contempt. And we have, to the best that we could, made it clear what our expectations were as to what items were okay and what were not. And we've tried to reinforce once again that if we go to Binghamton, we have no choice in a sense, but we're going to ask for contempt punishment. So we're lined up for April 3rd, and we're going to keep an eye on it. And if it's not cleaned up, we're going to make a trip.
So we're moving forward on the Benedy situation. Next, snow plowing intermunicipal agreement. Don, can you give us a comment on that?
Yes, as Jeff indicated in the highway report, we had a meeting I think it was last Thursday, with the county attorney, Kevin Whitney, Chris Newell, Pat Snyder was there because, of course, he represents town of Homer, maybe a couple other towns, and Al Riccatelli from the highway, and then there's another person or two, Jeff.
Well, it's Charlie Sudbrink,
Ch-
highway
You
superintendent,
got it.
and then Tricia Jessett, she's the deputy.
Okay.
So there's the top three from the highway were there.
So I thought it was very fruitful. As I mentioned to Jim on the phone earlier today, the contract that we had for 5 years and that we've renewed for this season, I think is going to be the template they're going to use to move forward. The discussion was, let's do it in 2-year increments, so you don't have the long commitment. One of our concerns, and that was put in that original agreement, was, well, the county had 8 ways to get out of the agreement. We want to be able to get out of it too. And they gave us that in the original agreement. So to address that, my view is that a 2-year agreement, either side can opt out before the 1-year anniversary of that 2-year agreement. So if we sign it, say the first part of April, it's effective for the next 2 years. Either side before the 1st of April 2020 can say, we want out. So I think that addressed a lot of the concerns right there. Everyone was in agreement that the proposal that was submitted last spring was not appropriate. It was interesting that both Jeff and actually Kevin Whitney, I think, each came up with similar sample contracts from Tompkins and Cayuga, and they were 2-pagers, not 6 or 7 pagers. So everyone was on the same page on that. There's probably at least one other thing I'm missing, but
The biggest thing is they want to move forward, and they want all the current contracts that have 1 year, 2 years left on them, which ours runs out 1st April. But they want to bring them all on to this so everybody has the same contract. 2 years, they're literally going to toss everything that's out there, because there's, that I know of, 3 different contracts out there. So many towns are working under a different contract. And the biggest thing that I was after is that it explains the town will plow the roads as the town has been doing. Because I don't know what everybody's feeling, but the county this year has done much better job plowing roads than they have in the last 3 or 4 years. And I told Charlie, if you expect us to keep up with that, I don't have a second shift. I don't have a night shift. He's got me beat 2.5 to 1 just in manpower. I can't compete with that. He says, no, it's still gonna be the same as what your maintenance is on the road system, which is the lower volume roads. You know, as mentioned, the cost per car on a low volume road can be astronomical for 4 cars to pass versus 50 or 100 cars, you know, that's expecting a nicer, well-kept road. So, but I felt really good leaving that meeting, so.
So we might, they're looking to start the 2-year cycle April 1, right?
As well, as soon as they can get out.
So I don't know if you want to give us authorization or not. I mean, I assume it's going to be the same price plus 2% or something per mile.
Yeah, that's the last I understood, yes.
Otherwise, we ought to have agreements ready to go next meeting.
Okay.
It's up to the county attorney to make some revisions and get those out. And as Jeff said, the goal is to use that same format for every town that plows for the county and start and stop the same time.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know that we have to have the authority, but we should have it ready no later than the next meeting.
Okay. I think we'll wait until next meeting and
Be the 8th, so.
yeah.
Good.
See what it looks like in the end. Okay. New business, we received $4,577.89 for Cortland County snow plowing. We see $1,771.89 from Northeast Transformers and $741.92 from USPS. At this time, I'd like to open up the meeting for public comment. I think we probably commented on most of the topics that people wanted to talk about, but is there anything else somebody wants to comment on or ask a question on? Feel free.
One thing I'll throw out there, in the last 6 months, my Spectrum bill's gone up $20, and then this last bill went up $2.04. So $22.04 in just 6 months.
So maybe we don't want it.
And so real soon you can have my hookup if you want. Okay? But also, if you're talking to Lori Mithen out at Association of Towns, we're not the only town that's got this trouble. I got to think, and maybe collectively, you know, not just Preble, but if there's, you know, 60 or 70 other towns that we can.
Well, that's why they're in trouble with PSC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Every 6 months.
Oh yeah, I couldn't believe $20 in 1 month. So. That's all I got.
Cord cutter.
Yeah. Okay, we need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
I'll make a motion to pay the general fund vouchers abstract number 3, numbers 45 to 62, totaling $4,257.82.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers, abstract number 3, numbers 24 to 32, totaling $10,296.54.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We adjourn.
Remember.
Don't forget.
There it is.
Looks good, Royce.